The power of withdrawal, how silence reshapes everything. Some people command a room without raising their voice. They don't argue, beg, or over-explain. They withdraw. They step into silence. And instantly, the atmosphere changes. The air grows heavier. Questions arise. Absence becomes presence. Silence becomes louder than words. Now imagine what would happen if you did the same, if you stopped reacting to every provocation, every tug on your emotions. What if you chose silence instead of argument, retreat instead of explosion? Here's the truth. People expect you to be predictable. They know which words provoke you, which buttons to press, how to pull you into their orbit. But the moment you withdraw, the game collapses. Suddenly, they're left with themselves. And most people cannot bear that. Carl Jung once wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." Your silence exposes dependence. It reveals who needs your reactions to feel alive. It unmasks manipulation. And it reminds you of this: many who demand your energy were never truly with you, they were only with the benefits of you. Every forced yes, every instant reply, every argument costs you life force. And for what? Exhaustion. Emptiness. Quiet resentment. Why? Because you've been too available for those who don't deserve even your silence. Withdrawal is not abandonment, it is self-choosing. It is individuation, the Jungian path of becoming whole. And on that path, silence is not weakness. It is power. Silence as power. Silence is not emptiness. It is condensed energy. It is attention reclaimed. Most mistake it for weakness. But in truth, silence is control, because it denies others the reaction they crave. Every angry reply fuels conflict. Every attempt to explain yourself to the unwilling gives them false authority. Every instant response confirms that your energy is theirs to command. But silence? Silence creates a vacuum. In that vacuum, people meet themselves. And often, they don't like what they see. Withdrawal as strength. Withdrawal is not running away. It is refusing to bleed energy into the wrong hands. Your attention is currency. Every emotional outburst is a payment. But who profits from your spending? When you withdraw, you stop handing out free energy. Those who only valued your availability vanish. The ones who truly value you wait. Silence forces truth into the open. This is individuation in action. By stepping back, you stop being a mirror for others' shadows. You meet yourself again. Why people fear your silence? Your silence terrifies others because it removes their control. When you stop reacting, they feel invisible. When you withdraw energy, they feel abandoned. When you withhold explanations, they feel powerless. The paradox is cruel. Those who said you were too much when you spoke will now say you're cold when you don't. This is because silence reveals their dependence. Scarcity creates value. So does silence. The less you speak, the more your words matter. The less you give, the more your presence is felt. Detachment as alchemy. Detachment is not indifference. Indifference says, "I don't care." Detachment says, "I will not be controlled." Indifference closes the heart. Detachment strengthens it. Indifference is numbness. Detachment is clarity. When you are attached, you are enslaved. Your peace is hostage to others' behavior. But detachment restores sovereignty. It transforms chaos into wisdom, rejection into redirection, betrayal into revelation. The mirror effect. Everyone you meet is a mirror. They trigger what you refuse to face in yourself. This is shadow projection. But projection only survives if you react. Silence breaks the cycle. Withdrawal denies the shadow a landing place. Their darkness returns to them. This is why your silence unsettles, it doesn't hide truth, it exposes it. The spiritual dimension. Withdrawal is not only psychological. It is spiritual. The soul cannot speak in noise. It whispers in silence. This is why sages, monks, and mystics withdrew, to hear the voice within. Most fear solitude because they fear themselves. But those who dare discover a power that cannot be controlled, because once you've met yourself in silence, the world loses its grip on you. The unmoved man. The world worships reaction. Outrage is currency. Attention is addiction. But the man who remains unmoved, silent, detached, sovereign, shatters the illusion. He cannot be manipulated by insult, enslaved by desire, or ruled by fear. He has faced his own shadows. And that makes him rare. And dangerous. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Withdrawal is how you make the unconscious conscious. It is how you rule yourself instead of being ruled. The reset of withdrawal. Sometimes life does not need more input. It needs subtraction. Arguments burn out when you stop feeding them. Murky water clears when left untouched. So does the soul. Withdrawal is the reset button. It is not weakness, it is discipline. The magnetic effect of silence. Here lies the paradox: the less you react, the more powerful your presence becomes. Humans cannot bear silence. They project meaning into it. They invent stories. They imagine power. Your restraint forces them into uncertainty. And uncertainty is magnetic. Mystery attracts. Silence is mystery embodied. Transformation through stillness. Withdrawal is not about abandoning others. It is about transforming yourself. Stillness reveals what you've avoided, the lies, the patterns, the people who drain you. And in that clarity, you become something sharper, stronger, more authentic. That is why every culture reveres retreat. Withdrawal is not escape, it is preparation. The return. Withdrawal is not forever. It is the furnace of transformation. When you return after silence, you return changed. Absence deepens your value. Detachment strengthens your presence. Stillness gives you sovereignty. And that is why silence is feared. Why withdrawal is misunderstood. Why detachment is mistaken for coldness. Because the world cannot comprehend a man who does not need it. And yet, that is the man the world cannot ignore. Discipline, the hidden edge of withdrawal. Silence and withdrawal are not just attitudes, they are disciplines. It is easy to lash out. It is easy to explain. It is easy to prove yourself right. All of these are temptations, and most men fall to them. But the man who chooses silence practices a discipline far harder than words, self-restraint. This is why the silent man unnerves the talker. Every word that bursts from the mouth of the undisciplined reveals their lack of control. They cannot stop themselves. They are slaves to expression. But the disciplined man is free. He chooses when to speak and when to hold back. He commands not just his voice, but his entire being. His silence is not absence, it is control in its purest form. Discipline is not glamorous. It is not loud. It does not beg for recognition. But it builds an inner fortress no enemy can breach. And in the moments that matter, in the storm, in the chaos, in the battle, it is the disciplined man who stands unbroken. Silence and timelessness. When you choose silence, you step outside of time. The noisy man lives in the instant. His words are tied to the heat of the moment. He reacts, he pleads, he argues, he complains. Minutes later, his words are forgotten, even by him. But silence lingers. Think of the time someone's silence haunted you more than their anger. Days passed. You replayed it. You wondered what they thought. Silence stretched into eternity, while words dissolved into dust. This is why silence is timeless. It reaches into the future, shaping how others remember you. A calm face in the storm, a refusal to bend, a presence that did not shatter. Long after words fade, the memory of your restraint remains. Silence belongs to eternity. Words belong to the moment. The archetype of the silent man. Across cultures, across centuries, the archetype repeats. The Stoic sage who sits in calm detachment while empires crumble. The warrior who speaks little, but whose presence shifts the morale of armies. The monk who withdraws into caves, only to return with revelations. The elder who listens more than he talks, yet whose few words change lives. The silent man is more than an individual. He is an archetype, the eternal figure who embodies stillness, restraint, and depth. To walk this path is not to imitate them, it is to tap into something older than yourself. To join a lineage of men who understood that real power does not shout. It does not perform. It simply is. The silent man in a noisy world. Today, the world is drowning in noise. Social media demands constant sharing. Conversations reward speed over thought. Outrage fuels attention. Everyone competes to speak, to be heard, to be relevant. But relevance fades quickly in a world addicted to noise. What does not fade? The figure who stands apart. The man who does not need to be seen, who does not need to be heard, who carries his presence like an unsheathed blade. In the age of endless chatter, silence is rebellion. Withdrawal is resistance. Detachment is power. The silent man is the rarest figure of all, the one who does not bend to the pressure of noise, but forces noise itself to bend around him. Withdrawal as alchemy. When you withdraw, you are not just escaping, you are transforming. Alchemy, in its truest sense, was never about turning lead into gold. It was about turning the ordinary into the eternal. It was about transformation of the soul. Silence and withdrawal are the philosopher's fire. They burn away the trivial, the shallow, the false. They strip you down until only essence remains. And when you return from withdrawal, you carry something the noisy cannot comprehend, the weight of transformation. You are not the same man. You are sharpened, refined, harder, yet quieter. This is why people notice, even if they cannot explain why. They feel something different in your presence. They sense that you have gone through fire and returned with something they lack. Withdrawal is alchemy. Stillness is transmutation. Silence is gold. Conclusion, the final fortress of silence. In the end, silence is not merely the absence of words. It is not emptiness. It is not weakness. It is presence distilled to its most concentrated form. It is power without theatrics. It is mastery without noise. The man who embraces silence is the man who understands that not every battle is worth fighting, not every insult worth answering, not every invitation worth accepting. He is the man who sees beyond the surface and chooses his ground with precision. He does not allow others to dictate the tempo of his life. He does not dance to the rhythm of chaos. He stands apart, rooted like a mountain while the winds of distraction howl around him. This is what makes him feared, respected, and remembered. The fortress within. Every man is at war, not always with others, but with himself. His impulses, his fears, his doubts, his need to be validated by the crowd. Most men lose this war. They speak when they should be silent. They defend themselves when they should let their presence defend them. They chase approval when they should cultivate detachment. But the man who practices silence builds a fortress within. A fortress no noise can breach. His emotions do not spill recklessly. His energy is not squandered. His attention is not hijacked by the meaningless. Silence is the guard at the gate of the soul. It decides what enters and what leaves. It preserves strength, dignity, and clarity. And in this preservation lies his freedom. A noisy man is a slave to others. A silent man is free unto himself. Silence as strategy. In relationships, silence becomes a mirror. When you do not argue, when you do not beg, when you do not chase, the other is left to face themselves. Many cannot endure this reflection. They are forced to confront their own emptiness, their own noise, their own need for constant validation. In conflict, silence is a weapon sharper than words. The man who refuses to be provoked is invincible. Anger is predictable. Silence is unpredictable. Anger consumes energy. Silence stores it. Anger bends to the opponent's game. Silence forces the opponent to bend to yours. In business, silence creates leverage. The man who does not rush to fill the space after making an offer forces the other to speak, to reveal, to negotiate against themselves. The pause is not weakness, it is dominance disguised as calm. Silence is not passive. It is active strategy. It turns the tables. It dictates the terms. Withdrawal as power. Withdrawal is not surrender. It is recentering. It is the refusal to be consumed by the trivial. It is the declaration that not every space deserves your presence. The crowd believes you need them. The world insists you must remain plugged into its constant noise. But the man who withdraws proves the opposite, that his worth does not depend on their recognition, that his strength does not require their applause. Withdrawal is the mark of a man who knows he has something to return to within himself. A mission. A vision. A discipline. A purpose that cannot be shaken by the shifting moods of the crowd. And when he returns, if he chooses to return, he does so sharper, calmer, more potent than before. Withdrawal is not escape. It is sharpening the blade in secret, so that when it cuts clean. The eternal archetype. From emperors to monks, from warriors to sages, the figure of the silent man endures. Marcus Aurelius writing by lamplight, choosing reflection over endless debate. Miyamoto Musashi sitting in stillness before his duels, letting silence speak where swords soon would. Monks in caves who emerged decades later with eyes that carried the weight of eternity. These figures remind us that silence is not weakness, it is the companion of greatness. The world remembers those who mastered restraint, not those who shouted the loudest. Noise fades. Silence echoes. The modern age of noise. Never has silence been rarer than now. The digital age thrives on noise, constant notifications, endless scrolling, arguments over nothing, distractions packaged as entertainment. To withdraw is considered strange. To be silent is considered suspicious. To refuse to share every thought is considered arrogance. And yet, precisely because it is rare, silence is more powerful than ever. In a world addicted to speed, slowness is strength. In a culture of oversharing, privacy is treasure. In an economy of attention, restraint is dominance. The man who chooses silence in this age becomes a living paradox. While others chase relevance, he cultivates timelessness. While others scatter their energy, he gathers it. While others beg to be noticed, he creates an aura that cannot be ignored. Silence as discipline. The hardest battles are not external. They are internal. To remain silent when insulted. To hold your ground when provoked. To withdraw when tempted to chase. To pause when every nerve screams to respond. This requires discipline of the highest order. And discipline is the root of greatness. Words are easy. Impulse is easy. Reaction is easy. But silence? Silence is earned. Silence is forged. Silence is mastery of self. Every time you choose silence over noise, you build a layer of steel around your spirit. Every time you withhold unnecessary words, you sharpen the power of the words you eventually choose. Every time you detach from the pull of chaos, you strengthen the fortress within. Discipline is not glamorous. It does not entertain. But it creates men whose presence alters the world around them. The legacy of the silent man. At the end of life, few men are remembered for their chatter. Words dissolve with time. Arguments fade. Outbursts are forgotten. But presence endures. The way a man carried himself. The way he stood firm when others broke. The way his silence commanded attention without a single demand. Legacy is not built in noise, it is built in restraint. It is built in the quiet power of a man who needed nothing, who bent for no one, who carried himself with a dignity that outlived him. The silent man leaves behind an echo, not an explanation. The call to you. So what, then, is your task? It is simple, though not easy. Guard your silence. Withhold your words until they matter. Withdraw when noise threatens to consume you. Let others scatter their energy while you concentrate yours. Cultivate the discipline to stand still when others rush. Build the fortress within. When provoked, stay calm. When doubted, stay firm. When ignored, stay unmoved. When tempted to prove yourself, let silence prove you instead. You owe nothing to the crowd. You owe everything to the self you are building in silence. Final word, be the fortress. The world does not need another noisy man. The world does not need another restless ego chasing attention. The world does not need another voice screaming into the void. The world needs fortresses. Men who cannot be shaken. Men who command respect not through volume, but through presence. Men who remind the world that true power does not perform, it simply is. Be that man. Be the fortress. Be the silence in the storm. Be the presence that lingers long after words fade. For in the end, silence is not emptiness. It is the final proof of strength. The highest expression of control. The mark of the man who mastered himself. And the man who masters himself, masters the world.